The rain was coming down hard that evening, relentless, cold, and unwelcoming. Inside the emergency room, Nurse Clara Hale had just pulled a double shift. Her scrubs were wrinkled, her hair pulled back in a tired bun, and dark circles sat under her eyes. But her heart was still steady, tired but unwavering. That's how it had always been since she lost her husband to cancer 2 years ago and took full responsibility for raising their teenage son, Josh. Clara wasn't just a nurse. She was a rock for countless people, her patients, her son, and even some coworkers who leaned on her quiet strength. But outside those hospital walls, no one knew her story. And some didn't care. It happened on her way home. A shortcut through the alley behind the closed pharmacy. She'd taken it many times before. But that night, she wasn't alone. 3 men stepped out from behind a dumpster, faces hidden behind cheap masks, voices laced with cruelty. One of them shouted, "Give us your purse, nurse," as if mocking the fact that her scrubs gave away her profession. She barely had time to react. One shoved her hard, sending her crashing to the ground. Her knees scraped the pavement, and the fall knocked the wind out of her lungs. Her phone skidded out of reach. The pain was sharp, but what made it worse was the laughter, the sneering chuckles of people who saw no value in kindness, no honor in care. But then, something shifted. As one of them rifled through her bag, he muttered something that made her freeze, not in fear, but in fury. "Dumb nurse. Probably earns next to nothing. Waste of space." That was when Clara Hale opened her eyes. Not just to the danger, but to something deeper. She wasn't just a nurse. She was a mother who had once worked 36-hour shifts just to afford her son's medication. A widow who'd cleaned blood off her floors, comforted dying patients, and held strangers' hands so they wouldn't die alone. She was a warrior in blue scrubs. And she wasn't going down like this. Her hand landed on something jagged, the broken leg of a wooden chair someone had dumped beside the alley. She gripped it tightly. The men didn't notice until she rose. There she stood, battered, bleeding slightly from her elbow, but her eyes, those eyes burned with something fierce. A fire they hadn't expected. "I take care of people like you," she said, voice low but steady. "But not tonight." She swung. Not wildly. With precision. She struck the leader's knee first. He yelped, crumpling. The second lunged, but Clara stepped back, then thrust the broken chair leg forward with the force of every emotion she'd held back for years. Grief, exhaustion, injustice. He stumbled, hit the alley wall, and dropped. The third. He ran. Minutes later, sirens wailed as a neighbor called the police. The 2 downed attackers were arrested. Clara gave her statement with blood still dripping down her arm, and her phone, miraculously unharmed, buzzed with a text from Josh. "Hey mom. Made dinner. Be safe." She smiled. The next day, news spread through the hospital. Nurse Hale fights off attackers after shift. Photos appeared. Her family cheered. Even patients recognized her now, not just as the gentle nurse with warm hands, but as the woman who refused to be broken. But Clara didn't want fame. She just wanted people to understand something the world often forgot. Nurses aren't weak. Mothers aren't fragile. And kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. Challenges she faced. The grief of losing her husband. Raising a teenage son alone. Long, grueling shifts in the ER. Being undervalued and overlooked by society. Facing physical assault after a hard day's work. Resolutions and growth. She discovered the fierce strength. Buried within her, she earned newfound respect from her peers and community. She taught her son the true meaning of resilience. She inspired other nurses to stand tall, no matter what.